Hello, this is Bern, and if you've been unsuccessful at attracting a high-value man into your life, on today's video, I'm going to reveal 9 often overlooked traits you need to look for if you want to find him faster than you thought possible. Hello, this is Bern. Welcome to another edition of BernMendez.com, a space where I share with ambitious, conscious, and heart-centered women how you can attract the man you want and enter the relationship you crave without the need for gimmicks, manipulation, or silly techniques. If this is your first time here and this type of subject really interests you, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of new episodes as they come out. One of the biggest problems I found is that many women who are interested in finding their ideal life partner have a list of things they're looking for, but what they look for on paper and what they go for on the ground are two different things. And it's not because the guys that they want don't exist, it's because sometimes chemistry, sometimes high intensity, sometimes flashiness, sometimes overconfidence from those guys make them divert their focus and go with what feels good in the moment, even though it may be unsustainable for the future. So if you have been connecting with guys who seem to be good for you and seem to be great and even seem to be high quality, but they end up not being, more likely than not, you might be focusing on chemistry far more powerfully than you admit. Now, before I go into expressing right now what are the 9 top values that I invite you to look for in men, I'd like to share that if you want to take these concepts further than I can explain in this short video, I invite you to click the first link in the description of this video where you can watch a free training I created that will show you how you can embody these changes in your heart and in your actions more so than just in your mind. All you have to do is click on the first link. You'll see a page that looks like this. Enter your name and email, and you start watching that free masterclass right away. Let's hit on to the first value to go for in a guy. Someone who's purpose-driven and aligned with a mission. Why is this so important? The reality of things is this. If you connect with a man who knows why he is alive, who has a sense of what drives him, who has a sense of purpose, who has a mission, he's going to be far more likely to be happy, to have meaning in his life, and to be able to offer you something beyond the scraps. When a guy doesn't know who he is, hasn't found his thing yet, then his search, his energy, and his focus is either all over the place or focus on finding that, which means the relationship piece will be 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 10th on his list. The second quality I suggest strongly going for is someone who is present. What does that mean? A guy who connects with you and you know he's there. A guy who speaks with you and is not looking at his phone, is not looking at the woman behind you, is heart and soul devoted to the conversation you're having and hungry to get to know who you are. Think about it. When you connect with a guy who's there, when you connect with a guy who notices things, when you connect with a guy who you feel his groundedness, you feel his ability to perceive what you're saying, to hold space for it, to ask intelligent questions, all those things are only possible if a man is present. His level of presence will increase your capacity to fall for him, will increase your sense of confidence in what he has to say, and will also allow him to be more persuasive and to be more congruent in the world around him. Number 3, someone who is financially responsible versus financially wealthy. Now, am I saying that if a guy is financially responsible and wealthy, you should discount him? No, but I've seen the mistake more times than not of women who fall for guys who seem to have their stuff together financially and are doing really well, but don't have many of the traits that I'm about to share with you, or who are focused on a mission at the exclusion of a relationship or at the exclusion of people around them, or who are making really good money as a result of doing something dubious or downright shitty for the environment and for the world. So when you connect with a guy who's in the quest for finding his thing and in the process of that and is financially responsible versus a guy who's financially wealthy but is not connected to a mission or is doing things that are not congruent with his values, my recommendation is go for financially responsible versus financially great, 10 times out of 10. Next one, go for someone who is compassionate. For someone who has the ability to feel empathy in his heart and express it in the way he interacts with you, in the patience he has for people around him, in the level of thoughtfulness he has with people who have less than he does, with people in service, with people who don't have as much as he does or are not as intelligent as he is. Because you'll find lots of guys who are smart, but they're smart lacking compassion. And compassion is a thing that will, when push comes to shove and you have an argument, he'll go for the jugular, right? If he's not compassionate, versus understand and figure out a way to solve the problem versus show you that he's right, show you that he has the ultimate word, show you that he's smarter than you think. When a guy has the capacity to be compassionate, it requires confidence. You can't be compassionate without some level of confidence, because if you're compassionate without confidence, people take advantage of you. So think about that. Go for a guy who has the capacity for empathy and for showing through his actions that he is a good human being. I connect with lots of women who are looking for someone who is a specific religion, whether it's Christian or Jewish, and they go for a guy who goes to church versus a guy who's good with his community. Go for the guy who's in action, being spiritual, versus the guy who claims himself through going to church or through reading certain books that he's spiritual. Spirituality in action is far more valuable for you. Go for someone who is both confident and humble. I can't tell you how many times in my 11 years of helping women find love around the world have found women who fall for guys who are overconfident, /cocky, /douchebaggy in nature, because they feel like that guy is high quality. He gets people to notice him. He gets what he wants done. But he's doing so as a result of putting people down instead of seeing eye to eye. There's people who have the mentality of win-lose versus win-win. A guy who's confident and humble is far more valuable to you and to humanity than a guy who's simply confident. So how do you know a guy is humble? He understands who he is, but he doesn't have to show it. He might have great skills in a specific area, but he doesn't have to convince you that that's the case. You know, when you see someone who talks to you and starts spewing how great he is, how much money he has, something that you get the feeling of, oh my God, why is he sharing this? Like, it's almost like it's a turnoff, but the guy feels he's being confident, versus a guy who shows up, he knows who he is, he doesn't have to flair anything, no gold watch required, he's just there. And again, that goes hand in hand with being present. Next one, which again, many women who are going for a quality guy, confuse quality guy with a guy who has, some steps in the world ahead of others. But you want to go for a guy who's logistically, not just emotionally, but logistically available. So what does that mean? That means that he has time to date. That means he has time to connect with you. That means that his life is not so complicated and chaotic or so focused on his business that he can't show up to dates, he can't call you, he can't connect with you. If you connect with a guy that on paper seemingly is high value but doesn't have logistical availability, he's absolutely worthless to you. Move on. Next, until he wakes up and recognizes he needs to make space for you, or until you find somebody else who's a logistically available match for the type of relationship that you want. Next one is you want to connect with a guy who is hungry for more. Some people call it ambitious, but I think ambitious sometimes has a connotation of somebody who's just dog-eat world, basically. Somebody who wants everything despite how he has to get there. If you connect with a guy who's hungry for more, a guy who's hungry for more self-awareness, hungry for more knowledge, hungry for more wealth, hungry for more intimate connection, hungry for more fulfillment, that's a guy that you can set your anchor with into the ground and know that you're going someplace. If you connect with a guy who doesn't have a sense of hunger for more, you might surpass him quickly thereafter. I've seen many women who connect with guys who are either super hungry at the exclusion of everything else, or very relaxed and not wanting a better life for themselves. And a better life doesn't have to mean just more money. It can mean a deeper way of looking at things, stronger connections with his children, more generosity towards the world. If you connect with someone who wants more without not being to enjoy the present, because you want a guy who wants more, but it's also focused on enjoying what he has, that's the right balance for you. Next one, look for a guy who's health-centered. I've never mentioned this, I think, on one of the videos that I've had. Whenever I come up with top 10 lists, top 7 lists, whatever, this is a new addition to this year. Why? Because a guy who's focused on health is going to be far less likely to have mental issues. And by mental issues, I mean mental imbalances, chemical explosions, bursts of rage. You want a guy who's focused on eating healthy, sleeping a good amount of hours, connected to movement, someone who is interested in being clean in terms of his eating habits, who's doing as little as possible of chemical substances that alter his mind. Why? If you connect with a health-centered guy, he's going to be a far better partner throughout time than someone who's eating himself to death or drinking himself to death or sitting himself to death because of lack of movement. Last thing I want you to look for is integrity. And integrity is something that you can't just feel in the moment without it taking some time to figure out the reality of what that virtue is. So integrity is a guy who walks his talk. Integrity is a guy who walks his talk. Integrity is a guy who says, I'm gonna show up at 5 and shows up at 5 or calls you beforehand to say, here's why I couldn't make it. Integrity is a guy who is telling the truth, a guy who's transparent, a guy who's not lying behind your back, a guy who's not hiding to write stuff on his phone that goes against the relationship. You want a guy who's full of integrity, and for that, you need to be present and you need to evaluate him through the passage of time. One huge mistake many women make in the pursuit of finding a guy is they come up with an idea of who the guy is. It's not tested through time. They make it a law in their mind saying, hey, this guy is this. After 1 week of knowing him, and they go all in, they become exclusive, and then they find out the hard way that he is a different guy than the one they imagined him to be. It was pure projection. So if you want this to work, you need to make sure that when you connect with men and are looking for these values and virtues, instead of just feeling a feeling of intensity or a guy who's respected by others, but because of the fear he instills in them, I want you to know that you need to test this through time to ensure that this is sustainable and this is true and not just a hypothesis. Hope this is helpful, useful, and insightful to you. If it is, my dear, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. On the first link in the description of this video, you'll find a training that I created for you that will help you to instill the concepts of attracting a man into your life, in your heart and body and actions beyond just your mind. Click the first link and you'll be redirected to the free training right away. If you like this video and you enjoy it, click like or thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. When you click the little bell, you'll be notified when the episodes that come out. And last but not least, if you've been struggling at this idea of finding an ideal guy and you're not sure what you're doing wrong, you've done the law of attraction, you've done ebooks, you've watched my videos and other people's videos, and you're still not getting it, you probably need some help. And if you want my hand holding to get you into that relationship in a fraction of the time, then second link on the description of this video will allow you to apply to work with me. And if we're a fit, I'll connect with you and share how this whole thing works. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for being patient as I share these ideas with you and for allowing me into your phone, into your heart. As always, I challenge you to live a full and conscious life.